What's up, guys? I found myself interviewing for some full-time work in these economically and employ-amentally challenging times, so this video is going to be several hours late, but I'm still shooting for a Monday release. It's pretty long, so I don't know, it may split up into part 1 and part 2 for a Monday and Wednesday release. So this will really be a test of how fast and how efficiently I can produce high-quality content on our favorite online novel, Reverend Insanity. In this video, I will be going over the types of conflict in literature, possibly inserting some notable examples of written works that are centered around these conflicts, and conclude with how Reverend Insanity tackles each and every one of these concepts from within its 2,000 plus chapters. Before I get into it though, please smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Despite my current part-time work and searching for full-time work, I am still sprinting towards the path of my own YouTube success and growing my own niche, medium-sized channel. And your participation in these videos is all I need to meet these goals. Thank you so much for your continued support. Let's get it. I'm sure a lot of us have seen this popular meme. Conflict in literature as represented by Looney Tunes. And there's a lot of variations. There's like a SpongeBob one, there's like a Rick and Morty one, there's all sorts of them. These types of conflict are the basis for any good story, and in most progression fantasy and xianxia, you will see a mix of man versus man, man versus society, man versus self, and hopefully at the end, man versus God. Survival books like Hatchet, a book I read in 3rd grade, covers the story of a guy getting stranded and surviving in the wild. This is classic man versus nature. You don't see a lot of man versus reality and very surreal fiction, but a great example of man versus reality as quoted by Wikipedia, The Ingenious Gentleman Don Quixote of La Mancha, or just Don Quixote, is a Spanish novel by Miguel de Cervantes. It was published in 2 parts in 1605 and 1615, a founding work of Western literature. It is often labeled the first modern novel, and many authors consider it to be the best literary work ever written. The plot revolves around the adventures of a noble, Hidalgo, from La Mancha named Alonso Quijano, who reads so many chivalric romances that he loses his mind and decides to become a knight-errant to revive chivalry and serve his nation under the name Don Quixote de la Mancha. He recruits a simple farmer, Sancho Panza, as his squire, who often employs a unique, earthy wit in dealing with Don Quixote's rhetorical monologues on knighthood, already considered old-fashioned at the time. Don Quixote, in the first part of the book, does not see the world for what it is and prefers to imagine that he is living out a knightly story. I did know the basic premise of the work, but in my research, I actually learned a lot of varied interpretations of the novel, from comedy to social commentary to tragedy by critics of various time periods and nationalities. So I'll definitely have to check it out for myself later on. Purist man versus author is extremely rare, but you've probably seen some works where the protagonist is aware that they're a character in the story and either choose to escape or go along with it. It's usually very meta, but I think perhaps the fact that Deadpool and some instances of Spider-Man are aware they are a comic book hero and make meta references about how they must fight bad guys and also be funny and entertaining at the same time qualifies as man versus author interactions. With more abstract conflicts defined with a pretty solid example, I'd like to jump right into the concrete examples of these conflicts in Reverend Insanity. Before the start of the novel, when Fang Yun is transmigrated to the Gu world, he is naturally not clear on the way this world works. Very early on, he is inspired by the magic of the world, and as someone from our world, is happy to work hard at his cultivation even despite having a C-grade aptitude. His experiences with the collapse of Qingmao Mountain and his time traveling the southern border as a person still on the righteous path is not versus society nor himself. His experiences with the cruelty of the world is not societal conflict, but a natural one. As readers, we know the way the world operates on a macro level is largely influenced by the will of heaven, but since the hero is not aware that the world he is in is a conscious, living collection of ecosystems, his conflict with his own inferior aptitude is first and foremost of man versus nature. His struggle to survive as cannon fodder while he is a rank 1 Goo Master is a struggle of his own survival in the extremely dangerous world he lives in. Man versus man is quite self-explanatory, but some examples are stronger than others. Fang Yuan's very first rival is his brother. When we see flashbacks to his original life in the Goo world, we see that he actually wanted to help his brother, but his brother became arrogant once he discovered his own A-grade aptitude. Chronologically later, but at our start, at the beginning of the novel, Bai Ningbing and He Lolan becomes Fang Yuan's first and second rivals. But these aren't the greatest examples, as with Fang Yuan's experience, he easily controls these two rivals and always ends up as the victor, achieving maximum benefits. No. I think Fang Yuan's strongest man versus man conflict is Fang Yuan versus Spectral Soul Demon Venerable's Split Souls, specifically Ying Wuxie. After the battle of Yitian Mountain, Fang Yuan is at a disadvantage, but due to the circumstances, specifically Ying Wuxie being directly out to kill him and his remnant force being the only surviving people knowing of the sovereign immortal body's existence, Fang Yuan is forced into the conflict that is directly disadvantageous to him. This is the first example of man versus man that Fang Yuan must kill. Remember, Fang Yuan only cares about the marginal utility of his methods. Killing is always less preferable to negotiation, as people are valuable, and Fang Yuan knows this. In almost all other situations, Fang Yuan has been demonstrated to prefer exploiting his enemies first for their physical belongings and then later for their influence and natural human resources. But with Ying Wuxie, their animosity is irreconcilable, as they are the sole two forces who understand the immense value of the sovereign immortal body, and also mutually understand that this secret must not be exposed to any more outsiders. Thus, it is naturally a fight to the death, as even if there is potential for cooperation in the future, they will always prioritize the revival of Spectral Soul Demonic Venerable and transferring his soul into the sovereign immortal body. This one's tricky. How do we define God in the context of Reverend Insanity? I can't be certain on this one, but during Fang Yuan's mortal cultivation after rebirth, we learned a lot about the immortal and demonic venerables of past ages, with the context that most Goo Masters don't make it to rank 3, and with the knowledge that rank 9 is the maximum rank possible for any living being. Perhaps a venerable is within this godly realm. Rank 9 has the highest combat power, being invincible in the entire world. Within this part of the novel, this is as far as we know as an audience. And within the mortal cultivation arcs, specifically Imperial Court Blessed Land, Fang Yuan fights directly against the will of Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. Naturally, he isn't fighting Giant Sun in his prime. Giant Sun is already dead. However, his will inside of his immortal Goo House, 88 True Yang building, is still alive in a sense. At this point in the novel, I was always imagining the Venerables in a very godlike form. For example, I pictured Giant Sun to be reminiscent of Aldrich the Devourer or Dark Sun Gwendolyn from the Dark Souls series, and Star Constellation Immortal Venerable in a similar fashion to this picture here. When considering that rank 9s have influence over all 5 regions and can utilize all of the Dao marks when not only within their bodies and apertures, but all of the naturally occurring Dao marks that exist in the world, from any position in the world, to manipulate the world itself, and considering that they have their own personal dimension that is specifically referred to as a rank 9 Grotto Heaven, and considering that they have supreme Grandmaster attainment in a certain path, and therefore are the most knowledgeable living person in comprehending the great Tao, the very nature of the universe, this definition is as close to a god as possible when compared to an ordinary mortal. Invincible in the world, with unparalleled creation and destructive force that comes as easily as moving one's hand. I think the fact that Fang Yuan defied such an existence as a mortal easily qualifies this category of conflict if you would also be willing to consider any Greek fable as man versus God. Man versus society. Finally, this one needs no introduction. This is one of the core themes underlying the philosophy of the novel. Fang Yuan's psychology is interesting to look at because he doesn't care about mortal vices. He drinks tea, not alcohol. He has no interest in beautiful women, yet is also not a misogynist. He has no problem in killing the innocent if that's the most effective method of achieving his goals. But he has no problem with working from within the righteous path either. Fang Yuan has lived all over the 5 regions, and in those original 500 years, he spent time as a righteous path member, but also a lone cultivator, and finally, as the leader of a demonic path sect. He didn't just spend 500 years meditating in a cave. He has 500 years of interpersonal interactions, and he's experienced injustice, discrimination, prejudice, and suppression as his identity transformed. His multi-generational experience with people has made him one of the most qualified to criticize society. He is one of the few people in this world to understand that the demonic path and righteous path of this world are 2 sides of the same coin. The demonic path exploits the weak overtly, while the righteous path exploits deceptively, promising to nurture and protect the weak, all while extracting value from their relationship. Tell me this, is a farmer righteous for protecting his cattle? Of course not. He is keeping his operation profitable. In his abandonment of worldly desires, ego, and an allegiance to any nation or ideology, Fang Yuan is directly opposing the entire societal structure by exiting the conflict between righteous and demonic forces. In his willingness to work with whatever side suits his goals the most, all while disingenuously presenting himself as a firm believer in the values that those sides align themselves with, Fang Yuan attacks society directly by directly contributing to the collapse of existing societal structure. Not only is this present in the subtext of the novel through his actions, personality, and behavior, but also it's present explicitly when he allies himself with variant humans whose goal is the collapse of humanity, where Fang Yuan continues to reinforce his own apathy towards any kind of society by seeking out methods to safely betray the variant humans he has allied himself with. In conclusion, not only does his actions negatively impact societal stability, but the society that is created by the result of those actions is also attacked by Fang Yuan as he continues the cycle of alignment and betrayal for the sake of benefits. You know what? I think this is a good stopping point today. We are roughly 13 minutes in, and by stopping here, I can get this out to you tonight, January 25th. Part 2 is going to be up Wednesday, January 27th, as I cover the more interesting types of literary conflict, so be sure to subscribe to see when I release Part 2 covering man versus self, man versus no god, man versus technology, man versus reality, and ultimately, man versus author. Once again, sorry about the delays, but hey, perfection is the enemy of progress. I'm still out here producing content for you guys Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, rain or snow, unemployed or employed full-time. Friendly reminder to like the video if you haven't already done so. Your love and support means so much to me, and it's why I continue putting in several hours of my life every single week into producing these videos for you guys. I am the Content Savant. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.